Good morning and welcome everyone. How you doing today? Hey, once a month we start off with something we call 60 seconds, and we're gonna get started with that right now, where we just ask that you maybe turn to somebody you don't know and get to know them a little bit better. And this month we're gonna have you ask a question, if you're willing. What is your first name and your middle name, and if there is any significance to that? So we'll start that now. Howdy, I'm Joe Weber. Good to meet you.
Hi, Dwayne Arlen. That was my dad's first name.
Arlen.
Yep.
Oh, Joseph Daniel, no significance. It was going to be one or the other, and they kind of just decided that that one sounded better than the other. So I wish there was a story, but there's not.
No story.
Joseph Daniel Weber is my name.
Trisha Kay, named after my mom.
Nice. That's good. A lot of family stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently mine didn't care so much. Whatever. They were good. I can't complain. Hello.
Hello.
All right, if you want to head back to your seats, hopefully you learned some valuable information. I was just reminded that my middle name means nothing, so thank you for that, I guess. A lot of other people had inspiring stories, so good for you, I guess. But my name's Joe Weber, and I've been around Woodcrest for a while. I'm serving on the elder board right now, and would love to meet you if I haven't. So if you're new here, or a guest or visitor, we've got a welcome center out front. We'd love to have you stop by, check that out, pick up some information on us, or ask some questions. Speaking of the elder board, once a month, we're also found right outside the center doors in that connection center area. So it's a good time to come by, introduce yourself if we haven't met yet, or if you have any questions or comments you'd like to pass on or discuss, we'll be meeting up there, so you're welcome to come on and chat with us a little bit. Speaking of our elder board, John Barton, who you might know, is in a period of congregational affirmation is what we call it, where he's been nominated to come alongside us on the elder board. He's been a member before and has always been a great resource for us and is willing to give and serve a little bit more of his time. So over the next couple of weeks, if you guys have questions or comments about that, you can get some additional information about John at the Welcome Center, or you can send an email to the board, or just grab me or send a message to me. We've got a little bio about him you can pick up at the Welcome Center, or I could send you something via email if you guys would like. So we're going to continue on this week with our message about Ruth. And Matt will come up after we do a little praise and worship here to talk a little more about that. So if you would pray with me. Dear Lord, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the transitioning of the seasons, the weather, a time for new things, a time for things that we count on, and just a reminder of how amazing this world is, Lord. So we thank you for everybody in this room, everybody up on stage, those that are watching online, everybody who's come to join us to be closer to you, Lord. And I pray that's exactly what happens today, and we can take that with us as we go out of these doors. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Even death can't win. Your love is greater than all my sin. I'll stand in victory before your throne. Glory and honor to Christ alone. There is no power, even death can't win. Your love is greater than all my sin. I'll stand in victory before your throne. Glory and honor to Christ alone. There is no power, even death can win. Your love is greater than all my sin. I'll stand in victory before your throne. Glory and honor to Christ alone. To Christ alone. You are the power, you are the might. You brought me out of the darkness into the light. You are the heartbeat of the light. You brought me out of the darkness into the light, into the light. There is no power, even death can win. Your love is greater than all my sins. I'll stand in victory before your throne. Glory and honor to Christ Something that I have been thinking about all week is breathing, as I'm struggling to do right now. It's something that we even talked as a band this week together. And during this time of worship, I would love it if we as a group are mindful of that breath, how our breath feels in our chest, the rise and fall, all of the muscles that we are using. All of us in here are breathing, something that we all have in common. And it's something that I take for granted, something that I don't even think about, that I'm doing just automatically. Our bodies are breathing. Whether we're having a good day, whether we're having a tough day, whether we are feeling celebratory, whether we are feeling down, that breath is always with us. Something that's going on automatically behind the scenes, always there for us. So I'm reminded of a song, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. And my whole life, I thought that was through the song or through the words that my breath was providing. But just recently, I realized that it is as simple as it is always there. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be anything. I just am, with every breath that I have, praising the Lord. So I would love it if you sing this song with Ty, with myself, with Sarah, with the band here, with every breath. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of
will not be shaken because he keeps my hope alive. There's nobody like our God. Days may be darkest, but your light is greater. You light our way, God, you light our way. When evil is rising, you're rising higher with power to save, with power to save. Oh, you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Woo! Death had a stronghold, but your life was stronger. Rose from the grave, rose up from the grave. Yeah, yeah. When evil is rising, you're rising higher with power to save, with power to save. Hey, you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. There's hope in the morning, in the evening. There's hope because you're living. There's hope because you're breathing. There's hope in the breaking. There's hope in the sorrow. There's hope for this moment. My hope for tomorrow. There's hope in the morning. There's hope in the evening. There's hope because you're living. There's hope because you're breathing. There's hope in the breaking. There's hope in the sorrow. There's hope for this moment. There's hope for tomorrow. Say you keep hope alive. You keep hope from the beginning to hold on. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Hope alive. You keep hope alive. God, I need to know. You keep hope alive, Jesus, because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. No matter what, you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Can we do it again? Oh, say you keep hope alive. I hear you. Yeah, from the. Thank you, God. Your word. Oh, you keep hope because you are Jesus, you are alive. Thank you so much for worshiping with us.
You guys want to do this? I was reading a book a few weeks ago about the Roman Empire, and I stopped because it was about the Roman Empire. But it was really interesting. And then I thought about the phrase as I was reading it, it's Greek to me, because that's what it felt like when I was reading it. So then I thought about the Greek some. And then I thought about that phrase, it's Greek to me. This is how it's Greek to me came to being, they think. Monks would be translating stuff in the medieval times, and they would be doing it in Latin, and then they'd hit some Greek stuff, and they'd be like, it's Greek to me. And just write that in the comments, like, I could have been a monk. That's how I did like geometry growing up. Nope, triangle, I don't do those. And then like Shakespeare, he does It's Greek to Me in his play about Romans. So you start thinking about the Romans, you start thinking about the Greeks, and then I started thinking about the Aztecs. As I quit reading this book on Rome, I thought about the Aztecs, and then I thought about the Mayans. The Mayans had a calendar that ended in 2012. Like, that's super ambitious. That'd be like us wanting to get lunch. I'll be like, I have an opening in 2057. Let me put until you in. It's like they just had this optimistic view. And then I was thinking about other groups of people. Roanoke. You guys know Roanoke? It's a colony. It's called the Lost. Like, how do you lose a colony? It's like phone, wallet, keys, colony. It's a big thing. Like, the investigator shows up, like, what'd you lose? It's like a colony. What'd it look like? Well, it had a bunch of people and houses and stuff, and it's just like gone. How do you lose that place? You just think about these groupings of people. And so then I started thinking about Norse tribes and how they used to invite groups of monks at monasteries. Or the pilgrims that fled for freedom from Europe and what that would mean for the freedom of indigenous people later. The cultures and eras, they come and go, these groupings of people, and the flow of time goes on and on and on. And yet, as I'm thinking of all this, I think about in all the millennia of all the people being gathered together ever, there is no more bizarre grouping than that of the 20th century school bus. Because as I'm thinking all this, I see a school bus, and school buses are different now. I looked, and like every kid's on a tablet or a phone. I was like, that's not how it was in the 20th century. If you know, you know. And I think about that too, like who came up with the whole school bus thing when this was a thing? There's like a boardroom, and someone's like, I know how to transport the students. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get this like room, this vehicle that looks like a corridor, and it's gonna be just dinny as can be, as echoey as possible. We're just gonna make everything that happens in there reverberate to a decibel level that's beyond human reckoning. And then we're gonna get like 60 or 70 or 80. We're not actually gonna count. There's gonna be a bunch of kids though. They're gonna sit 1 to 6 to a seat. No seatbelts. We wouldn't think about doing seatbelts. No. And then someone's like, well, what ages will these children be? It's like, well, we wanna make it make sense. So we'll go from like age 5 to like 21, the kids who flunk. And that seems like a good grouping to put together. And then someone at that board table was like, this seems like just a crazy idea. And that's when the person's like, yes, I'm sorry, I buried the lead. I should have told you, we have some controls in place. First control, we're gonna put a bunch of rules up at the front of the bus. Like there's gonna be a whole wall of rules. You remember the wall of rules? It was like no yelling, don't put your gum under the seat, thou shalt not murder. And it's like the 5-year-olds can't even read those rules, but the 21-year-olds will help them. They'll sort it out. They're gonna have all these rules. And then the other thing we're gonna put in place, we're gonna have an adult on board. Just one. Just one adult. That one adult should be fine to handle the 60 to 200 children while navigating a 15-ton vessel down the road at 60 miles an hour. And here's the other thing we're gonna do. We're not gonna pay them very much, or we're gonna respect them even less. Nothing can go wrong. And I remember that, trying to find the bus. When school started, you'd get assigned a bus, and it was always like, I don't know, red triangle 22, or blue circle 23, or black hate symbol 24 if you went to that school. Like there are all these different symbols, and you had to try and find the right bus, and then you'd get the wrong bus for a couple weeks, but finally you find the right bus, you'd be in the bus, and I could go on and on about the stuff that happened on the bus. Some of you could too. But stuff happened. Fights, and romances, and smells, all the smells. And there'd be starts and stops and food and commerce and language. You'd learn so many new words on the bus. But always this constant ebb and flow of folks coming and going. All these different people crammed together. And such is life. Such is church. Think about this. Let's just get a whole bunch of people, different age groups, different backgrounds, different experiences, different ideas. Just put them together. Nothing will go wrong. It'll be great. That's also the journey, how faith looks. That all of us end up just cramming together in whatever rooms we can find, bouncing along, trying to get home. And it can be cruel, and it can and does have all the smells, but we sit there, and do we trust that the route we're on, that the vehicle we're in, will take us where we're meant to be? We've been looking at Ruth, and Ruth's life isn't a direct route to victory. It's full of starts and stops. There are bends in the road that she can't see around. She just has to keep riding. Or maybe another analogy, we used this a couple weeks ago, it's almost like walking and you have legs, and the legs are faith and obedience, and that's how you take steps walking to where you're supposed to be. Sometimes sidling, sometimes sauntering, sometimes just staggering on, hoping that you will arrive at some point home. So today we're going to pick up where we left off in Ruth. That's what's planned for today. I'm going to be talking some. If you haven't puzzled that together, surprise, I'm talking. I'm going to be talking some. Then next week we're going to do a thing. It's going to be a baptism service. There's going to be a lot of music, a lot of celebrating. It's going to be really cool to see that. Some of you are like, okay, good, I don't have to come next week. No, that's the one you should come to. It's going to be way better than anything we do today. Make sure you come. That's a good time to bring friends. It's a good time to talk about what's going on. What we're going to see is kind of the outflow of Ruth in that baptism service. That Ruth is sort of this testimony that goes on. And then we're going to see that testimony play out real time with people's lives next week. And then a week after that, Kelly's going to come out. I'm leaving some stuff on the table. She's going to take all that stuff and make a casserole out of it, of Ruth. And she's going to give us some stuff that I can't give you, some insights that I don't have. And then the week after that, I think it's November 17th, I'll be up here and we'll close the book of Ruth down. So those 3 weeks, we're going to be doing that. And that last one will have a bunch of application. And so today won't have a bunch of application. We're just going to try and leave with like one or two things or an idea that fires for us. But to catch us all up, Ruth, in this journey, on this bus ride, she was facing grief. That in a short span of time, she has lost her father-in-law, her brother-in-law, and her husband. This is something else we haven't talked about in this book. At the beginning of the book, this is smuggled in, this detail, that she had been barren for 10 years. In those days, you get married. In these days, we get married. But in those days, like here, we get married because of romance, because we want to do life together, and maybe we want to have kids, maybe not, we'll see. Those days, you got married to have kids. That's a big reason why you got married. That was the deal. Because your children just weren't these things you loved. You loved them, you played with them, it was great. They're also your legacy. They're also your insurance plan. They were your retirement vehicle. There was a study done that something like up until the 20th century, the beginning of the 20th century, a kid would leave the household at 18 or 21 and had been a net benefit of something like $50,000 to the household. And then by the end of the 20th century, a kid would leave the household and they were a net deficit of $67,000 to the household. That's true numbers. I mean, the numbers aren't, but that's a true data that they would find. That the kids would be your laborers, your farmers, your helpers around the house. So you'd want to have these kids. And then they take care of you in your old age. For 10 years, she couldn't have kids. We don't know why. But somehow she's facing infertility amid all these other things she has going on. And then she has to leave her sister-in-law. They'd known each other for a while. Orpah, she turns her neck and goes back home, and Ruth joins her bitter mother-in-law toward a land in which she is a detested foreigner. She's a woman. She's alone. She's unattached to a man, which means she's vulnerable. She's without protection. That's the wrong bus. You don't want to be sat on that bus. The places that it's going to take you, all the places you will go, these are bad places that it's going to take Ruth. All of the variables are there that this is going to be a bad thing. And then a senior gets on the bus. He's a jock. He's got the leather jacket on or something. He's got the cool haircut, and he comes sauntering on. He says, hey, you mind if I sit with you? That's what's going on here. That's Boaz. Then in chapter 2, Boaz shows up on that bus, and he's a man of prominence, that he has fields. He has goodness. And so we enter this thing. That's what we're getting at in Ruth. It's a little ditty about Ruth and Boaz. It's this love story that's going on. Meanwhile, back home, Naomi, she's listening to dashboard confessionals, wearing too much mascara. She's going through her emo phase. Like, she wants no part of this. She is bitter because God has left her, she thinks. But then all of a sudden she hears about Boaz. Ruth tells her, and pitter-patter goes her heart. She starts getting excited. She re-enters life, re-enters story. And the reason is this, because Boaz is a kinsman. They had this rule, this law that was enacted. It would help protect families. It helped protect lineages. It helped protect women. And it was this kinsman redeemer idea that a person, if they were yoked to the family in the right way, that if a family went bankrupt or had something happen through death, this person could marry that family back, rebuy the land, repurchase the land, and redeem them. And then they could marry the person and give the person children so that that family name would continue on. And that person is grafted in and gets to remain in their good standing in their family. They're not desperate. They're not lonesome. They're not looking. They're not longing. It's this beautiful thing that was going on, and Boaz could do that. So Naomi hatches a plan for Ruth to pursue Boaz following a harvest party. After the harvest, they'd work really hard. They'd have a party. They'd celebrate their good fortune. They'd celebrate that something had happened. They'd celebrate that they have a future and a hope. And then they'd eat, they'd drink, and they would be merry because tomorrow they would thrive. They'd go to market with this. They'd make bread with this. Things were good. Now, last week we looked at this. The whole time Ruth is going on, there's actually two stories going on. There's one right out in your face, and then there's one that goes over and below and beyond the one right in your face. So the first story is this literal romance. Ruth and Boaz, boy meets girl. It's a classic Hollywood trope. Boy meets girl, girl slinks into boy's barn and asks him to put his tunic over. Like, we've all seen that movie. We've seen that movie several times, right? The second story that goes on is this prophetic type that happens every time someone gets grafted into the family of God. It's this tale as old as time, this age-old story. Redemption 101. Then in your Bible, you have the Gospels. And it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And what the Gospels do is they depict Jesus and who Jesus is and what Jesus does. And we get to see at first row seats who Jesus is and what Jesus does. And then if you take Ruth and you make it a gospel, the good news of Ruth, here's what Ruth does. It shows as an illustration now how you follow Jesus. This is how it works. This is the inner working of salvation, of justification, of all the fancy theological words. We get to see that in Ruth, how to be a Christian and how it happens. So with that in mind, we dive in where we left off, chapter 3, verse 1. One day, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, said to her, "My daughter, I must find a home for you where you will be well provided for. Now Boaz, whose women you've worked with, is a relative of ours. Tonight he'll be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfume, and get dressed in your best clothes. Then go down to the threshing floor, but don't let him know you're there until he's finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, note the place where he's lying, then go and uncover his feet and lie down. He'll tell you what to do." And Ruth says, "I'll do whatever you say." Ruth answered. She goes down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law told her to do. 7, when Boaz had finished eating and drinking and was in good spirits, remember, the work is finished at this point. Just like in our redemptive arc, the work is finished. That Jesus says it is finished upon the cross, that the work is done. That's when she enters. That's when we enter. In the spiritual sense, we enter when the work is done. It's the work that's gone before us. We don't add to it. He's done the work. The work is finished. They were in good spirits. He went to lie down at the far end of the grain pile. Ruth approached quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. 8, in the middle of the night, something startled the man. He turned, and there was a woman lying at his feet. I love when the Bible uses exclamation points. That's how some of us, like, if you're become a Christian in college, if you're a young person, and then all of a sudden your faith gets through in college, you're like, man, I wish God would bring me a mate. And you just go to bed and just wake up and look at your feet, and it's like, no mates. That's how some of us live. And it's like we go decades of like, why isn't it? Here's the deal. I'll give you a shortcut. Go to church. That's it. You will meet someone who's seeking God or pretending to seek God. That's it. If you want someone seeking God or pretending to seek God, and you're seeking God or pretending to seek God, usually God, it's Occam's razor. He works through the most obvious path. Go to church. Boaz does this, but this isn't like your life verse. I'll just sleep every night and just hope and look at my feet. It probably ain't going to happen for you. It could, probably not. But this is an awesome thing. And this is also awesome because he can't see her. He's been with her. He knows her. They've worked together in the fields. And I think he has a crush on her. So he's been thought, but he doesn't know it's her. Why? It's dark. I love that this is embedded in here, small detail, but it is so dark. Remember when the book of Ruth starts, the time of Judges. Historically, this is a dark time. Some people say this as we have election season every 4 years. We say this, it's a dark time for our country. Oh gosh, our country. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's false. It's probably always been said. But this is a legitimate dark time in their nation. Time of Judges, they just kept blowing it. It's one of the darkest times in Israel. They just keep going backwards, keep going the wrong way. It's terrible and it ends terribly and things are going terribly. And it's a time of famine. The time of famine has just ended. Dark, hungry, tired, broken. And now we have this scene that's at night. Pitch black. Can't see anything. The reason I want to bring that up is that sometimes that's when light shines the brightest. It's in the darkness. Some of you are like, oh, it's so dark. You don't understand my life. My life is dark. I don't understand that maybe. The Bible does. God does. And that darkness does not scare him. That's often when he does his best work. So some of you are out here, you're hurting. Some of you out here, you're grieving. Some of you out here, you're in pain. And those are the same people who haven't listened to any of this so far. They just drag themselves in here. They don't want to be here. And now all of a sudden they're looking up because, yeah, that's me. And here's what he's got for you here. Hope. There's hope in the night. In fact, that's when hope is. When it's daylight and everything's going well, okay, you just walk and it kind of just comes naturally. It's when it's dark. It's when you get that diagnosis. It's when you have that breakup. It's when the finances, the math isn't mathing. That's when he shows up. And you're like, okay, I'm really going to hope. I'm really going to hope. And then it doesn't happen for you today. You know what you do? You wake up tomorrow, you know what you do? You hope. You know what you do the next day? You hope, you hope, you hope. Because why wouldn't you? It's better, and he's working. So he says, who are you? What's going on? What is this? He could smell the perfume. He's like, this is definitely a woman. It's a lady. And then he feels her head, like something's going on here. Like what's happening? Who are you? And she says, I am your servant Ruth. Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer, a kinsman redeemer of our family. I love what she's doing here. She's quoting him back to himself. Every dude loves that, right? This is chapter 2, verse 12. Boaz goes to Ruth and he says, may the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. So she says, you're my servant. So in other words, she's saying, my Lord, give me refuge. Same language, same picture going on here. And it's like, oh, she's supposed to trust God, not trust this dude. A lot of times, it's both. Our functional obedience, it's both. She's coming under the wings of God. How? By becoming fully one of God's people, coming underneath God's law. This was the laws that they had in place for the kinsman redeemer thing. She's like, yeah, I'm going to play by those rules. I don't have to play by those rules. I'm going to enter into those rules because that's how I honor this God that I've taken. You will be my God. Your people will be my people. She's doing that. She's trusting God's provision, not some kind of provision she can get for herself. She's saying, I am in. In this act, she is taking refuge under God. And in this act, she is also taking refuge under Boaz. It's two things at once. Verse 10, he says, the Lord bless you, my daughter. This kindness is greater than that which you showed earlier. You've not run after the younger men, whether rich or poor. Look at that. He says, blessed, be blessed. I bless you. And look at how you get the blessing here. How do you get the blessing? How do you get the blessing of God? This is how you get the blessing of God. This is how Ruth gets the blessing of God. She humbles herself. She stalks in at night. She bows at his feet. She's lowly. She's small. She doesn't come with demands. She doesn't come with expectations. She doesn't come with entitlement. She comes mighty in faith. That's how you're blessed. When you are mighty in faith. Jesus has something to say about this. In Matthew 5, he says it. He lists a whole bunch of people who are blessed. Here are some of the people who are blessed. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are the mourners. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for goodness, for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the pure. I love this because Ruth is pure in this sense. She is bringing daylight virtues to the middle of the night. She could have come as a seductress and maybe gotten her way. She chose to come as a saint. She's pure. She's good. And here's the deal. She's not good so that she can get faith. She has the type of faith that makes her good. It's our faith that makes us well. She has a type of faith that produces a goodness. And then Boaz responds in turn. He's good towards her. He's honorable towards her. He doesn't take advantage. This is his barn. This is his land. He can get away with whatever he wants. She's just a woman, and she's a foreign woman. She's not even going to be able to talk in court if she speaks out against him. He can do whatever he wants, and what he chooses is honor and virtue. Can you see them? What a beautiful picture it is. It's better than what Nicholas Sparks could write. They're just sitting there. They're talking. They're whispering. They're probably telling jokes. They're having this time with the stars shining over Bethlehem through the slats of the barn. The same stars that in a similar spot hundreds of years later would spotlight a child away in a manger, a redeemer. It's the same town. I love this too in verse 10, that he realizes there would have been other ways for her to get what she desires. If what she desires is food and wealth, there was other ways for her to get that. There's other paths. There are worldly options. She could have gone after someone with more money. She could have gone after someone who was better looking. She could have gone and got this in other ways. She could have gone someone younger. You see what he calls her? Daughter. It's like the birth of a Pearl Jam song right there. Don't call me daughter. Because if they end up getting together, it's like, hey, don't call me daughter anymore. I know there's an age discrepancy here, but don't call me daughter. We can't do that now that we're married. But he calls her daughter. You could have had other people, but you chose me, and I'm choosing you back. It's a beautiful picture. Verse 11, it continues. And now, my daughter, don't be afraid. I'll do for you all you ask. All the people in my town know that you're a woman of noble character. Although it is true that I'm a guardian, a kinsman redeemer of our family, there's another who's more closely related than I am. The bus screeches. The engine overheats. We hit a snag. This happens in every movie you see that's a romantic comedy movie. There's a time where the boy and the girl are together and everything's going right and that song plays, Kiss Me Beneath the Milky Twilight. Kiss me after the harvest party, it's playing, and they like lean in to kiss each other, and then all of a sudden dad pops in, like, what are you kids doing? And then like the record screeches, like, and the whole thing stops. That's what happens here. Everything's going well, they're interacting, it's beautiful, it's gonna happen. Will you be my boyfriend? Check yes or no. It's a check yes. Everything is rolling towards this beautiful conclusion, and then wait, there's another. There's another. And that other has a claim on you. That other has dibs, first right. And in the redemption tale, it's the same. Everything seems like it just like fit. It's going smooth. It's like a straight line, but then there is another, and that other is sin. It's got a grasp on us. The wages of sin is death. Death has claimed us. The stakes through the heart. We're deaths. And then there's this prince of this world that's mentioned in the Bible. And that's not talking about is Satan. I don't know what your views on Satan are, but there's this entity, this being, laying claim to the things of this world. And when I sin, I become a thing of this world forever. I'm a thing of this world. That we in our sin are marked, claimed, and wedded to death. And this scene in Ruth and that reality makes me think of the old preacher story. If you've never heard this old preacher story, you haven't been around church long enough. This old preacher story gets said sometimes because it's a great story, and here's how the story goes. This kid and his dad are crafting a boat, and this is way before Legos. So they're doing it by wood, doing it by hand, spending time together, making this thing just as perfect as it could be. They're getting the sails, they're doing the whole thing, this little sailboat that they're gonna have. It's a wonderful work of camaraderie. They're joyously doing it and love. They're creating this thing. And then the boy, he sees that it's ready. He takes it down to the little stream, and he puts it in the stream by their house. And it sits in the stream and it floats, because of course it floats, because it's good, it's very good. And it's sitting there buoyant in the water, this beautiful picture, this beautiful day. And the wind kicks up, and the boat starts drifting away from him. He calls it back, but it drifts further. He calls it back, it drifts further. He yells with all he's got, it drifts further. It's out of reach, it's gone. Rip current, rapids, gone. A few weeks go by, he has to go to the old general store to get provisions for his family. He's getting canned goods, whatever. And he's buying this stuff, and this gnarly old shopkeeper staring at him with a sneer, and he looks over this guy's shoulder, and there he sees a tattered, broken version of the boat. It's up there over the guy's shoulder. He says, that's my boat. And the guy says, no, that's my boat. I found it down the stream. Broken, battered. The kid said, I want that boat. Name your price. And he names his price. And it's so much. It's audacious. It's a ludicrous price. It's gonna cost the kid everything. So the kid goes away and he works and he toils and he strives, and then he comes back and he slaps the payment on the desk and he takes the boat. Tucked under his arm, he walks home smiling, carrying that battered, broken boat. And he says this, I made it and now I bought it back. That's redemption. That's what it is. Do you know the biblical word redeemed, redemption, what it translates to? To purchase in the market. You've been purchased in the market. That Jesus buys you, though the cost is ludicrous, audacious, you're dented and dinged. Out of his great love, he gives us all. He's willing and becomes our kinsman. He's able in his perfection, so he becomes our redeemer. Boaz here is willing, but the question is he able? Verse 14, back to Ruth. So she lays at his feet until morning, but got up before anyone could be recognized. And he said, no one must know that a woman came to the threshing floor. I love this, because this is him protecting her person and her reputation. She could have just left at night. That would have been the safer thing for him. Get out of here. I don't want to get caught with a woman in here. That could harm me. That could harm my reputation. But remember, this is Bethlehem. This is where David's from. David fights Goliath, all right? Remember when David fights Goliath? One of the reasons they let this boy go and fight Goliath is they say this, he has fought both the lion and the bear. So this is a place where there are lions and bears, oh my. To let Ruth go home at night would mean Ruth is gonna get mauled. Or there are ne'er-do-wells. There are bad dudes out there who see a lonely woman, Moabitess, walking. It's not gonna end well. He's protecting her. Even at risk to himself, he protects her. But then, if he lets her leave in the middle of the daytime and everyone knows about it, there's fiercer beasts than the lions and the bears. There's the beast of gossip and pettiness and envy. He's protecting and preserving his betrothed. And that's what Jesus does with his church. The church shouldn't exist anymore. The church has done some stuff. It shouldn't be around it. Why does it keep marching on? Because he can't stop, won't stop. The gates of hell will not prevail against the church. And that's what he's doing with his people, with his bride, with you. That he's carrying you through to completion. The Bible promises that. He's protecting and he's preserving. And then before she goes, he says, all right, we're not going to tell anyone about how this went down yet. And then he says, verse 15, he says, bring me the shawl you're wearing and hold it out. When she did so, he poured into it 6 measures of barley and placed the bundle on her and then went back to town. He's making a down payment here. And he chooses the number 6 because the number 7 is the number of completion in their culture. And the number 7 is going to be, I'm going to complete this with the covenant, with the vow. And you're not just going to get a bundle of barley. You're going to get everything I have is yours. That's the completion that I'm bringing to you. He has faith. Back to verse 11. You know there's another one? He says there's another one. But before he says that, I will do it. I will do everything you ask for me. I will put my protection. I will let you be under my refuge. You will become my bride. I will become your husband. There's another one, but I will do it. He has faith that's unwavering. That's why he's paying this cost right now, because he knows that it's just a down payment. He's going to get the total later. It's going to be hard. It's going to be costly, but God's plan will prevail. He's taking us home. Here, Boaz gives with what is coming in mind, not what is and what has been. Are we that way? Do we almost, like in some ways in our faith, we can't ever do this, but it feels like this? Do we beat God to the spot and meet him there? I've been waiting because I knew you'd be here. I knew you'd be in the place of hope. I knew you'd be in the place of joy. I knew you'd be in the place of love. So that's where I'm running to. And then 16, 18, we got some good old-fashioned girl talk. Ruth scurries home, and Naomi's waiting at the door. She's like, what happened? When Ruth came back to her mother-in-law, verse 16, Naomi asked, how did it go, my daughter? Then she told her everything Boaz had done for her, and added, he gave me these 6 measures of barley, saying, don't go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed. And Naomi said, wait, my daughter, until you find out what happens, for the man will not rest until the matter is settled today. Who said that? Naomi? What happened to Naomi? Well, flashback to Naomi. This is one of the first monologues we get from Naomi. It's chapter 1, verse 11. Naomi said, return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons? Who will become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I'm too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me. So that's saying there's not hope for me. Even if I thought there was still hope for me. Even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than you because the Lord's hand has turned against me. She isn't done. Verse 20. Don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. And here when Ruth tells her about what's going on with Boaz, she said, hey, trust the Lord. Let's see how it plays out. Let's have some hope. Here, do you want something to drink? Have some lemonade, right? Let's just rest. Let's just think about this. We're okay. It doesn't sound like the same person. What we have is a different person. It's transformation in real time. That's why we talk about baptism service next week. And we're like, okay, I can skip that one because I've seen that before. The beauty about going to a baptism service is you're getting people really close to the moment of transformation, the initial transformation. You're getting people be like, all right, I made this decision. Here's the thing that's happening. A lot of times we hear someone be like, well, I was in this band and we were doing all these drugs and now I'm not anymore because God changed my heart. And it's like, well, when was that? It was like 1972. It's like, well, that's still cool. But this is like real-time transformation. You used to be bitter. You used to be angry. You used to be hopeless. And now just a few pages later, you're hopeful. You're light. You're encouraging. It's winsome. That's why you come to baptism things. You get to hear that. You get to see that. You get the reminder of that in yourself. It's a beautiful picture. And it leads us to chapter 4. Verses 1 through 4 read this way. Meanwhile, Boaz went up to the town gate and sat down there just as the guardian redeemer, the kinsman redeemer, the other one that he had mentioned, came along. Boaz said, come over here, my friend, and sit down. So they went over and they sat down. Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town and then he murdered the man. No, he didn't. He didn't murder the man. That'd be the easy way. Right? There's all these situations where Boaz could have just taken Ruth. Oh, I didn't know about you. Oh, I forgot that there was another guy. It totally slipped my mind. Like he could have fibbed a little. He could have Davided the guy and taken him out and put him on the front of the battle lines, and then he dies, and then you take the woman. Like, he could have done this a lot of ways. He's not doing it this way. He's gathering up a whole army of elders to go and watch this thing go down. So he went over and sat down. Boaz took 10 elders of the town and said, sit here. And they did so. Then he said to the guardian redeemer, the kinsman redeemer, Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling this piece of land that belonged to our relative, Elimelech. I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here, in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has the right to do it except you. I'm next in line. I love that he wants to do this by the book. That it's this transaction. This is the word for it, integrity. He's got utmost integrity, even maybe sacrificing the thing he wants and desires for the thing that is better. Righteousness, virtue, goodness. He wants to make this legal in the eyes of God and man. If we snap back to the other story, that's how your salvation goes. That your salvation has a legal reality to it. People say, well, why the cross? Why did the cross happen? Well, it happened so that we can see the arms of Jesus opened up, John 3:16, for God so loved the world, of course. And that's true, and that's wonderful, and that's great. But it also happens because God is holy. And from that holiness comes justice that is absolute. And that justice is based on love too, that we have a God who so loves love that he hates evil. Isn't it great to know that you have a God that will never look favorably upon murder? A God that will never clap his hands at rape? A God that will never look away when misdeeds happen? Justice will roll down like mighty waters. Racism is not ever going to be okay with our God. That should make us feel good. Here's the snag. He hates evil. And then we look in the mirror and realize, uh-oh, I got some of that in me. Have I been racially charged before? Probably, yeah. I've done things. Have I discriminated before? Yeah, I've done that. Have I murdered? Yeah, in my heart. The Bible says when I have anger in my heart towards other people, it is the same as murder. Oh no. I really like God's justice on everyone else. I really like his love, but I don't like his justice on me. But he's an unchanging God who doesn't shift like shadows. He is committed totally to love and justice. And so love and justice requires here a payment. In other words, a debt must be paid. I had this thing happen like a year or two ago, and I just want to preface it by saying I'm not a super nice guy, and so here I'm going to tell a story that makes me sound nice. Round down, all right? Because next time this happens, it probably won't be as nice. I just got lucky this one time, all right? But I was at Hy-Vee yesterday, so it reminded me of this. I went to Hy-Vee maybe a year or two ago, and I parked. I go in, I get like ice cream or something really healthy, and then when I walk out, a large portion of my car is on the ground. When I pulled in, it wasn't on the ground. I would have remembered that. It was on my car. I drove with my car on my car. And when I came out, my car was on the ground. Something had happened. And there's scratches all over it. And I was like, was it a very selective storm? It's like blue skies, all the other cars look good. And then I noticed 2 notes on the windshield. 2 notes, wow. I have an admirer, I don't know. And so I grabbed the first note, and the first note says, hey, this is so-and-so. I saw someone hit your car pretty good. They didn't say that, but they hit it pretty good. I saw someone hit your car, and I got their license and their plate number. And here's my number if you need a witness. Okay. A second note, I wonder what this one's about. Second note is like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I was driving my grandma's truck, and I nudged your car. It's like, you didn't nudge my car, you rocked my car. I'm no Sherlock Holmes, but the fact that there were 2 notes meant that this person who was driving grandma's truck left the scene. That's why there's the first note. They left. They weren't going to tell anyone about this. And then what happened is their conscience got seared, or they told grandma, called and said, hey, I might have nudged the guy's car. She's like, did you nudge it or did you rock it again? Like whatever. She has a conversation with grandma, or she tells a coworker. She gets to work and be like, yeah, I just hit a car. And the coworker's like, dude, you got to go own that. You can't just leave. That's illegal. And so then I started thinking about that person. Like, one, I think of them as younger. They're driving grandma's car. I don't know. I put them at 20. Maybe they're 18, maybe they're 30, I don't know. But there's an age where you stop borrowing grandma's car, it seems like. They also aren't a great driver. They need more experience behind a big truck, obviously. So I was just like, this young person is, I think, right now, having the worst day of their life. And here's the reality of me. I don't care about cars much. I don't care about my car. My kids are always hitting my car with stuff. I just drive a car, it drives. I got a car I like. It's fine. It's got a lot of miles, whatever. I don't really care too much about it. I also really don't like insurance claims. I don't want to deal with that. And so I just get my phone out and I text the person, hey, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I think I put some Christian stuff in there because he felt like he had to. Be blessed, child, or something. My daughter, and they're like, a creep. But you got to, you got to elevate. You got to witness. I was like, yeah, it's okay. And I started thinking about it later, she got off cheap. Well, actually, no, she didn't. She got off costly. The expense is exactly the same. If the expense is $1,000 and she's got to pay it all, or at the expense we come out with a deal where like she's got to pay $900 and I got to pay $100, whatever. Like we could work out some kind of deal, but the expense is going to be $1,000. Let's say I let her off the hook. I take my car to the mechanic. I was like, hey, mechanic, fix this. And he fixes it and he comes out with an invoice. He's like, no invoice. I told her she didn't have to pay. Mechanic would be like, that's not how this works, bub. It's still $1,000. It is $1,000. The cost stays the same. It's like, what's the line? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Like next week, we will have lunch in here together. We'll go across the way and anyone who wants to can have lunch. And we say it's a free lunch. It's free to you. It's not free. It's because community and you are worth it. But we don't go to Hy-Vee, who's catering or something, or a pizza place and be like, hey, no, this one's free. It's for the church. Like, no, you still got to pay. Jesus doesn't have a free gift for you. That's what a lot of times we say. Wage of sin is death, but the free gift, well, it's free for you. There's a great cost for him. Grace isn't cheap. We have like Black Friday coming up. Well, Jesus wasn't like, okay, Black Friday, things are on sale. Maybe there's a Good Friday sale. I'll go on Good Friday, and that's when I'll die because it'll be a little cheaper. Maybe they'll let me off. No. It's absolute and it's total. What's the cost? The cost is death. That's what it cost Jesus. The cost is that him in perfection gets mutilated, gets marred. That he who knew no sin became sin for us so that we might become righteousness. Someone is paying. And he chose to pay. He incurred the punishment, the legal wrath of God's judgment so that we can walk from that courtroom totally and completely innocent. And you said like, oh, I feel ashamed because now I'm, no. He said, I take this on willingly, volitionally. I want to do this for you. It is finished. You are forgiven. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Walk in freedom. It's for freedom you've been set free. That's how we leave that courtroom. I told that girl in that text message, don't give this another thought. Now, she should think about it and be moved to joy. Maybe she's moved to tears. Maybe she's moved to pay it forward in love. And so too with us. But it's not this shame-inducing thing. It's a hero riding in and saving us. And this is what I love about this scene in Ruth. The Boaz is doing this redeeming thing, this legal transaction. Where's Ruth? She's with Naomi playing pickleball or something. She has no part in this part of the story. Completely gone. It's all on the Redeemer. You don't help with this part. You don't come through and be like, okay, that's really great, Jesus, but I'll also offer my wealth. I got some good money, or I have looks, or I have virtue. I'll bring that towards my redemption. You can't. You put your faith completely in the Redeemer, and you receive his good gift. He pays the tab. You don't sit there and say, well, I'll get the tip. No, Jesus pays it all. Yesterday, I took my kids to Target, and one of my kids had his Grandpa Gordon money, which is the $25 he gets when he has a birthday. And we were paying, and he had to like put the money in all this stuff, and then he gets a receipt. And I said, hey, we're at the self-checkout. I said, keep that receipt because sometimes when you leave the store, they want to make sure you paid for it. And the guy overheard me who was like working the kiosk of the self-checkout. And before he leaves, he goes, hey, young man, how do I know you paid for that? And my son holds up the receipt and shows it to him. And he's like, all good then. And my son smiled. He's like, whoa, it worked. That transaction works. That's the transaction that works for us when we get to heaven. We get to heaven, we have a receipt, and it's Jesus Christ. So we show up and we don't say, well, it's this, I did this. I was on the board of trustees. I went to church. No. We point to him and say, receipt, it's him. It's written in red ink. Look at his hands. That's the answer. I don't add to that. I don't compel God. It's him. God has been compelled to save me and to save you. And then verse 4 ends this way. The dude who's like the guy we don't want to win the story says, I'll redeem it. That's again, the bus stops. Someone threw up on the bus. We got to clean it up. It's a crummy end to the movie. We read all this, and then Boaz doesn't get the girl he's supposed to get the girl. This guy has the money, and he has the desire for goodness, this other guy. I have the money, and I want to like honor my people. I want to live by our law, so I'm going to do this thing. And then Boaz goes on, verse 5. Then Boaz said, on the day you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth. And he doesn't stop there. Ruth, the Moabite, the Moabitess, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property. That guy didn't want that. He had 99 problems and a chick is one. Like he had a problem at home. He had a wife already, or he had a girl he wanted to be a wife with. He had some stuff. He had a chick on the side. He had stuff going on where he didn't want another one. Or this, he didn't want a Moabite. Ugh. Why would I want a Moabite? I can marry anyone I want. Why would I don't want a Moabite. See, this is costly. It's going to cost him money. It's going to make him take on a wife This other redeemer cannot redeem because he lacks what Boaz has. You know what Boaz has for Ruth? Love. He loves Ruth the Moabite. It's too costly. It's too complicated. This other guy, Orpah, he turns his neck. He walks away. He kicks rocks. I'm out. Boaz legally in front of witnesses redeems the living and the dead. Jesus legally on a hill outside the gates of the city redeems and gives life to the dead. He loves you. Oh, how he loves you. That's why he redeems you. And then closing with this. I read this verse earlier. Chapter 2, verse 12. This is Boaz to Ruth, saying, may the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. And in 3, verse 9, Ruth says, I'm your servant Ruth. Spread the corner of your garment over me. Sir, guardian redeemer of our family. And then hundreds and hundreds of years in the future, this is written to you. You think Paul has read Ruth? Here it is in Galatians 3. Before the coming of this faith, we were held in custody under the law, locked up until the faith that was to come would be revealed. So the law was our guardian until Christ came, that we might be justified by faith. We got a new kinsman redeemer in town. Now that this faith has come, we are no longer under that guardian. So in Christ Jesus, you're called children of God. We've been made family. We've been restored. We've been given an inheritance. We've been made an heir through faith. For all who are baptized into Christ have clothed yourself with Christ. Cover me in your garment. Let me take refuge under you. There's neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you're all one in Christ Jesus. If you belong to Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Home. You've been taken all the way home. The stories collide, that we bound along, starts and stops, but Jesus is taking us through danger and fear and doubt and pain. He is taking us home. So I said I had one application. It's a simple one. Believe him. See him. Trust him. Let him pay the debt. Bask today in his protection, provision, and providence. Let him clothe you in it today. Trust him to take you all the way home.
I remember how you provided, how you held me through the night, and I remember how you sustained me when you stepped in to save my life. If I knew then what I know now, I would be still and let you work it out. Jesus, I was tossed in the water, but I never went under. You were always on time. Jesus, when I went through the fire, you were right there beside me. You were always on time. You were always, always, always on time. You were always, always, always on time. I remember how you loved me when I couldn't take a step, and I remember how you loved me when I couldn't love myself. Jesus, I was tossed in the water, but I never went under. You were always stay in your embrace. All my heart is for you, and you've always been my hiding place.
Just a reminder that our elders are going to be across the hall in Connection Center. And then also want to just give you a heads up about the initiative that our prime timers are undertake. It's the Sharing Warmth Holiday Edition. So we're collecting both the stocking caps, socks, and gloves. We're hoping to collect like 100 of each of those items. We're gonna have a place by Connection Center that you can just put your purchases that you bring and put them in there. We hope that by end of November 17th, we would have collected everything, and our outside the wall ministry, they're going to disperse those for our neighbors and then also community in need. So we hope that you would consider to do that. Just a reminder, next Sunday, we're going to have our community lunch, but more than just kind of like bringing your appetite, we hope that you would bring yourself for the special service that we have planned for you with our baptism service, and you don't want to miss that. So if you know a friend that they're just even exploring the idea of what does church or Christianity looks like, I think that it would be a good service that you invite them to see what the even spiritual journey may be part of their lives. So please bring a friend if you know someone that they might be interested. Until next week, you all go in peace.